What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of New Pod here on Knotfest.com. As always, I am Joshua Toomey, and that is Ro Coley. Welcome him back from San Diego Comic-Con, man. Ro, how you been?
Oh, man, I'm tired. That was a long show this year. It was interesting, man.
Well, let's kind of dive into it on the side of the actors strike and everything else. So were there a ton of people there? Could you tell a difference there this year? Is everything going on around it?
Okay, so to answer, it's really a yes and no kind of situation. Yes, it was very obvious that there was a lack of a lot of things because of the actor strike. Places like Comedy Central usually have huge installations. HBO, Netflix always have huge installations, and excuse me, just huge productions outside of the convention center, whether it's like hotel, like just huge banners that go down the hotel, down the outside of the hotel or whatever. Paramount Plus had a lot of it for a lot of their shows, but everybody else just and Cartoon Network, Adult Swim had some stuff, but that was really it. So that was kind of like a very muted kind of feeling there. You had some places that had some good stuff that had nothing to do with the actor strike. So like Peanuts, there was like a huge Snoopy installation and, stuff like that. So it's like there's certain aspects of it that were kind of cool like that. But you could definitely tell that like, at least I felt that there was less people outside, because usually that's just as big an attraction for people who can't get into the show, that they can at least party on the outside and be with all the cosplayers, and there's like parties and just like, you'll just be walking downtown and it's like, oh fuck, there's Jon Favreau, or oh man, there's fucking Keanu Reeves is just hanging out there smoking a cigarette, whatever it might be, So there was just that lack of that feeling. And then same thing, there's a huge hall called Hall H, which is where Marvel and Netflix and all of them like really do their big reveals. And Kevin Feige from Marvel comes out and all the actors come out and everybody's excited, and it's a crazy kind of thing. And usually it's like the lines are just like they set up for like almost like Six Flags, like amusement park lines, just up and down. It's people bringing inflatable mattresses and just like all that kind of stuff, like literally camping out. and that was just empty. Wow. So it was kind of weird when you're just kind of walking around, you're like, normally this place is like nonstop people and things and just all this stuff. And it was just very kind of muted in that regard. However, on the flip side of it, it meant that more people were actually inside the convention center. Okay. So not as many people waiting in line and whatnot. So you had everybody sort of in the convention center. So it definitely had like, I wasn't sure if like people were just not going to show up or, whatever. But I find that with Comic-Con, it's an international event. So you get people who are just excited to be there. We had people at my booth from Mexico, Peru, Argentina, Brazil, Australia, Japan, Switzerland, Finland. I mean, and so they're kind of like, it's Comic-Con. Like, this is what I based my whole vacation on. So they're coming no matter what, and they're coming with their money, and they want to have the Comic-Con experience however they can have it. And so you still got, there was still plenty of artists there. There were still plenty of signings. It was just, very much, you definitely did feel that lack of actors and actresses and studio executives and especially when we did like some of the kind of the after events, normally you'd have like, oh, Netflix is putting on this whole thing and it's an open bar and all these people are going to, and there was definitely very much of a lack of that. But on the booth level, we still did really well. There's a ton of people, that part of it, I think that part of it is whether the actors are involved or not. I think that's what it showed, was that even without the Hollywood angle of Comic-Con, a lot of people talk down about like, oh, Comic-Con was cool back before Hollywood got involved. It was still cool. So with Hollywood, it's cool. Without Hollywood, it still works.
So were there still like the random actor signings, like the classic actors, Eddie Munster, like those type dudes that are always at those signings? Were those kind of people still there, or everybody was kind of?
It seemed like it. Like there was, but more in the vein of promoting something that didn't have to do with TV. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, it would be like, I'll use your Eddie Munster thing. Like if Eddie Munster would be signing at a booth that was doing a Munster comic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of more along those lines, where it's like maybe they would promote, like for instance, what's the guy's name? The guy who created Hellboy, Mike Mignola.
Okay.
Or Mignola, however you pronounce his name. You know, I know that he probably supports strikes and everything, but he's still promoting Hellboy, the comic book. You know, so you still had a lot of that. Like Todd McFarlane was there signing. You know, like you still had these people who are very much tied into Hollywood in some way, shape, or form. Were still there. You know, and still a part of it. And I think people still reacted very favorably to that. And then to kind of go to the next point, like we had Lacuna Coil sign in my booth, and they were actually there for another booth called CMON, CMON, that does like little miniatures and role playing kind of games, you know, almost like not World of Warcraft, excuse me, like Warhammer, that kind of thing, or like Hero Clicks and things. And so they had made Lacuna Coil into some of their characters, which was really cool. And then they released a sort of like a complimentary comic book with it and all these kind of things. But they had Lacuna Coil signing at their booth like 4 different signings, you know. So when they were like, I was like, hey, you guys should sign at my booth. I was like, well, if you're doing 4 signings there, you know, why would people show up to my booth? For yet another. So we decided to do custom pop figures of each of the 3 people in Lacuna Coil of Marco, Christina, and Andrea, and then we did an exclusive poster which was on like cardstock, you know, so it wasn't just like a regular handout poster you usually get. It was a real nice stiff poster, and it was the cover of the comic book. So and then we made Lacuna Coil trading cards.
Nice.
Which was really cool. So everybody got a set of trading cards for free, and the band signed those. And we charged like $20 for the poster, and the band signed those. And then the figures, since we only made 5 of each person, were $300 each. Wow. And we are almost sold out of those. So we're going to be putting, I have to still talk to the band and everything about how we're going to do this, but we're probably going to put it advertise it on their website, kind of put it in my eBay store and sort of do it like that. So it's just easier on shipping and everybody can kind of get what they want. So I mean, but the cool thing was that I'd say about 80 or 90 people showed up for our Lacuna Coil signing, which I was really blown away by. Again, because they had 4 other signings, you'd think, who's really going to show up? But you know, when people got there, everyone was really happy. They were stoked about the poster. They were stoked about, and we only did 250 posters, so they were stoked about all of it. So it was, and then we played their new song "Never Dawn," which is a great track. If you haven't listened to it, definitely check that out. It's a great song, which they did in conjunction with the game that they're a part of. And then we were all talking about how me and my wife Bick are going to be going on the Headbangers boat in October, at the end of October, and Lacuna Coil is doing that too. So they're going to be doing a short southeast tour.
Yeah, they will be coming here.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm bummed that we're going to be in Miami, and everywhere they're playing is like at least 5 hours, 6 hours away from Miami. So I wish we could go to see one of these shows, but we will see them on the boat though. But yeah, they're playing with Lions at the Gate and
Fear Factory. Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, and you get a couple of shows with God Forbid taking over for Fear Factory. But yeah, it's going to be a great show.
Now, did you see the one musician that you had to see at San Diego Comic-Con, and that is Glenn Benton? I
didn't. So because we were so busy at my booth, I very, very rarely got to leave. And I really wanted to see him. I'm a huge Deicide fan.
Yeah, me too.
Back in the day when I was just an intern, a lowly intern at Roadrunner, I got to write the bio for Serpents of the Light. Nice. So that was always a big deal for me. And then during the Roadrunner United concert in New York, I was one of the production people, and so I had to deal. I was kind of the artist wrangler, so just dealing with him, working with him, talking to him. He's just a super cool dude. I was actually just talking to their label about like how cool it would be if we could do a Glenn Benton custom pop. I think that would be really fun, you know.
That would be fun.
Do like 10 of them, and just I was like, he should sign them in his own blood. I think that'd be super amazing. Like just something really off the wall. But yeah, that was the only thing. I wish I could have gotten to see. I wish I could have gotten to see Deicide, but like I said, this year was kind of a weird mixed bag of a year. I felt like there was a lot of trepidation and hesitation on the part of a lot of people to really put resources into it. We were going to a lot of companies saying, "Hey, have your band sign in my booth and and we'll do this and we'll do that," and they were like, "Yeah," and I was like. It's kind of weird because now it's like in hindsight, I'm like, man, this would have been a great time for music to have really made an impact at Comic-Con because there were no actors and actresses to distract people from it.
Were there other bands signing other than Lacuna Coil and Glenn Benton? That was the two.
Just us and them.
Wow.
Yeah. There's only 3 booths that deal with music at Comic-Con. My booth, the War Machine merch booth, Stern Pinball, who had Ozzy last year, which was a huge hit. And with Stern, they have 2 of my friends, Gerardo Martinez, who's now at RPM Records, who just signed Deicide. He's there. And then his brother's company, Republic Rebellion. It's one of the two. I always fuck it up.
Right.
Even though I make merch for them too. So they were there because they're going to be doing, they do a lot of different bands merch like Arch Enemy and stuff like that. Joey Jordison's merch they do. They had a sick Joey Jordison print, Josh. If you are a Joey fan, you've got to see if you can find it, or I'll see if I can
definitely
figure out how to get you one because I don't have the room for it in my house. But man, this thing was so dope. It was a screen poster. It was him with the crown of thorns.
Oh yeah.
All Hope Is Gone, I think, and it's just a really cool photo, just print. So yeah, they had them and Twin Temple also signed.
Oh yeah, I saw them too. Yeah. The I got to shout out Jody Dinkberg from Stern Pinball. Friend of the show,
friend of ours. He's family over here.
Yeah, he's a good dude. To kind of keep it a new metal adjacent, man. Did you see how many Linkin Park shirts?
That's a really good
Slipknot shirts. Anything? How much new metal did you see there?
Let's see. That's a really good question. I mean, obviously, we had Lacuna Coil, so there was a fair amount of Lacuna Coil shirts there. Typically, what I usually and here's the weird thing. This year, what I saw more of were mashup shirts.
Okay.
So it would be like, let me think of one that I saw, like Freddy Krueger, and it says Slasher, but it's a Slasher in the Slayer logo.
Right.
So it was a lot of that kind of sort of thing where we saw like the Mandalorian, but it was written in Metallica lettering, that kind of thing. Otherwise, I mean, I saw Slipknot shirts and a few things here and there, but overall not super metal shirt heavy this year. Again, because Glenn Benton was signing, there was a handful of death metal shirts and whatnot. I did see like what looked like a 12 or 13-year-old girl wearing a Cannibal Corpse shirt, which I was like. It filled me with a weird sense of pride and worry at the same time. Right. So I was just like, I'm concerned for her, but right on. You like Cannibal Corpse, but
did you have any desire to be like, name 3 songs?
Yeah. Right. Oh, actually, not on that point, but we also saw Brian Posehn live.
Nice.
He did a set at the American Comedy Club, American Comedy Company, in San Diego, and that was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was interesting, but very muted this year. It felt like somebody, it was just muffled.
Yeah.
That's really the best word I can use for it. You can hear it, but you could definitely tell it's not as crisp and clear as you wanted it to be. And I'm just hoping that by next year the strikes are over, everyone can get back to doing what they do, and next year, when they announce stuff, it'll really have the impact that everyone wants. And to be honest with you, last year when we did it, we were coming off of a year and a half, almost 2 years of a pandemic.
Right.
So last year when people came, they were like foaming at the mouth for stuff. Like they just wanted, it was like the best way to describe it. It was like, you ever see World War Z when all the zombies are like fighting each other to get to the helicopter? That's kind of what it was like. It was just like everybody was so excited to be there, and we didn't know how it was going to be, if it was going to be dead or packed or whatever, and everyone was just rabid for it. And so now with this year, it's almost like now it's a little, it's kind of interesting. It's almost like tapered off, and then I think next year, if it goes good again, it'll be this huge World War Z kind of thing again, where everyone's stoked again to do it. So I think this whole writer strike thing was kind of a blessing and a curse all at the same time. But in the end, man, if you can make it out to San Diego Comic-Con, man, please come out. And if you come out, Josh, I got a badge for you, no problem.
I was about to say, if you come out, you're going to work.
Yeah.
Speaking on that, man, it's funny. Last week you took the week off, and Matt Nas from Roach Coach stepped up, and a huge shout out Matt Nas. But the main thing was we couldn't coordinate because you had to be there so early. And it's funny, you're like, I got to be there to set up, and I'm like, what do you got to set up? You got to throw out a couple of pops and everything else. And then I saw the photos. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like these gigantic racks of just, merchandise on merchandise. I was like, all right, I stand corrected.
Yeah, that's why I'll tell you a funny story. People always come up to me and they go, hey, dude, I'll help you out with your booth. And I'm like, man, you have no idea what you're even talking about. Because everybody, that's the thing, is that unless you've been there or unless you've had to work a booth in some regard, a decent sized one, no less, it's like people have a garage sale mentality of it where you're like, yeah, just put stuff on tables and people do things. And it's like, oh, man, I wish it was like that. It's, I think the best comparison I can give, it would be the equivalent of trying to have a lemonade stand in the middle of a mosh pit. That's really what it's like. It's you're trying to deal with people, trying to not have them wreck your shit, trying to sell people stuff, and try to keep a good composure, yet still watch your back and make sure nobody's stealing your shit.
Nobody's stealing. Kids aren't like, hey, look at this, like, woo.
I have a sign literally at my booth that says, you break it, you buy 6.
Nice.
And it's funny when parents see that, they're like, okay, officially stay the fuck away, kids. Like they really put their kids in check when I really show them that, but again, it was good for what it was. I hope more labels really come to me and really want to be a part of it next year. Yeah, I do think they missed out, but there is next year, and next year can be great. And I hope labels like Metal Blade and a lot of labels I talk to really come back to the fold, because this could have been a really awesome one. It was just good, but it could have been really amazing. But I hope next year will be really amazing. So that's my review of Comic-Con, man. Lots of people.
That sounded like a blast.
It was, man. I always tell people it's the most work you'll put into having fun. It's really what it is, But yeah, it is a good time. It's just overwhelming when people, like when the Lacuna Coil guys and girl were there, you could tell they were like, like we didn't quite expect this, Nice. But it was cool though. They were telling me about one they have in Italy that they just did, where it's literally a town, an entire town that is walled off. It's like an old, town from like whatever, like the 1500s or whatever, and they have their big Italian Comic-Con in this town. So all the stores in the town are all carrying stuff. It's like the whole town just becomes Comic-Con, or an Italian Comic-Con. So they were like, they were a little like, oh, like we weren't expecting it to be in this big like warehouse convention center thing, because they're so used to it just being in this almost Renaissance fairish kind of vibe,
Nice.
And for here, it's like, no, concrete floors and concrete walls, so
fluorescent lights.
Yeah, so that was kind of like they were like, oh, all right, like we weren't expecting that, but they definitely had a good time and just roaming and spending money. Nice. They spent a lot of money in my booth. They were like, how much is this? How much is this?
All right, let's awesome San Diego Comic-Con stuff. Before we dive, you went to see a show recently, but before we dive into that, let's dive into the Knotfest New Metal Bracket Challenge. We're down to the final two, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, by the time this episode is out, the bracket challenge will be over, but it's kind of already over. So with, let's see here, 38,820 votes to 23,937 votes.
That's significant.
Evanescence Fallen is beating System of a Down Toxicity.
Really? Color me brown and shocked.
Now there has been some talk about, not necessarily rigged, but you can vote more than once.
Stop the
So some of the people that are commenting in the on the Instagram and on the Facebook page, they are calling they're saying the Evanescence fans are rigging this challenge.
You know what? Here's the way I look at it: is in either way, it's not like whoever wins this thing. You know,
Right.
they don't win the award for most prestigious new metal band ever in the history of rock and roll. Like,
I thought that's what this was.
Yeah, right. Were we gonna crown them? You know, but that's kind of it. It's like that's why it's like, all right, if it is Evanescence versus System, then so be it. But I don't think that doesn't necessarily mean that System now is some lesser band because of it. You know, it's like no, just there's people who voted, people who didn't, and this is how it came out. But you know, I think we all can look at all of the bands in each of the brackets and go, fuck yeah, that record was fucking great. Yeah, that record's fucking great. That record's fucking great. So I don't, you know, as fun as the bracket challenge is,
yeah,
you know, if people had money on it, that would be a different story.
I will say that since this bracket challenge has gone on, that I've been in the car twice and 2 separate songs from Fallen have come on the radio. And I'm like, man, this really isn't that bad either. I'm thinking I can see why people are into it and you know, maybe look back on it fondly. I just love System of a Down, and Toxicity is a great record, but the Fallen record, not that bad, but still, I mean, I've seen so many people just arguing that they're, you know, Evanescence is not new metal just because they had a rappy guy on the one song doesn't make them new metal. I mean, people are upset about this whole bracket challenge.
Well, again, if they lost money, that would make sense. If they were like, "Yo, like I got, you know, Chimera beating out whatever by
I put 100 on Chimera.
Yeah, put 100 on Chimera, then I'd be like, all right, that sucks for you, dude. You know, but I mean, that's kind of it. I think it's just, you know, this is just a fun, almost like a gentleman's bet kind of thing. You know, I don't think it determines the you know the way the world works by any means. You know, it's fun and okay, cool. Evanescence came out, man. Go Evanescence. You know, it's not my cup of tea per se, but after seeing them at Sick New World, I was definitely like, I get it. Right. I absolutely get why their fans feel this way and why they're you know, why they have the intensity they do. Can't argue that, you know. But System of a Down fans are just as tenacious and have just as much, you know, sway and everything like that, and neither of them are wrong, you know.
Agreed.
So I think that's the way to look at it, really. Nobody's wrong. We're all winners.
Everybody just love each other.
Yeah, come on. Because seriously, to pit records like Chimera against like whatever, like Around the Fur, it's like, oh come on, really? Like, really? That's like asking which one of my fingers I want to keep. It's like it's not a fair thing to ask anybody. So,
but which ones would you keep?
Yeah, just the pinkies.
I would just all pinkies.
All pinkies. All pinkies.
We have a band coming up. We should tell this at the beginning, but a band called A Way Out. A couple of songs out, kind of the new metal kind of coming out. Interview with them coming up soon. But you went to a show recently, and I told my wife about it, and she was like, "Man, that sounds awesome." So kind of talk about the show you went and saw recently.
So we saw yesterday, literally last night, Cypress Hill in San Diego playing all of their second record, Black Sunday, with the San Diego Orchestra.
Nice.
And let me just tell you something, man. Black Sunday is my favorite Cypress Hill record. Like, it's, in my opinion, it would be one of my Desert Island records. I love that record. I like worship that record. The first rap album I saw with what I thought was a death metal cover. I was like, I didn't realize it was Cypress Hill.
I could see that.
Yeah, it's like all skulls and crazy shit, and I just didn't realize. I didn't know that was Cypress Hill. I'd never seen any hip hop artist do what I would have considered at the time, especially a metal record album cover like that, you know. And it was awesome because Sendog and B Real came out, and they were in suits, you know, and it was my boy Christian Oldie Wobblers from Fear Factory and Violence now, was
Mhm.
playing bass. He played stand-up bass and regular bass.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dude, and I didn't realize it was him because of where our seats were. I couldn't really tell that was him, but I just kept going, man, this fucking bass player is really killing it. Like, he was just nailing all the Cypress Hill bass lines and everything, and just doing the stand-up bass, which I didn't even know he could do. And just seeing him up there, and I mean, I meet him go way back, but like that, when they announced him at the very end of the show, I was on my feet. I was like, oh my, like, it was like the best surprise ever. But man, it was just with the orchestra and everything. It was so good. It was just so good. And so, and it was funny too, because he's like, oh, this is an aggressive song right here, or this next one's going to be really aggressive. But like with the orchestra, it was, I've heard Kiss do it with a symphony. I've heard Metallica do it with the symphony.
Yeah.
There was just something weirdly different about it, but it was so goddamn good. And then I think it was a couple of nights before they did the same thing with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra.
Okay.
Out in Denver. And I heard, I mean, I don't know how that show went. I would imagine it was just as awesome. But it was just really cool. It was on the Bay in San Diego. The irony is that we just got back from San Diego Comic-Con, which is at the San Diego Convention Center. And this venue is right behind the convention center. We were right back where we were 2 days ago. So
Nice.
That was like one of those things where we're like, oh my God, really? Why are we back here? But it was really cool. It's called the Rady Shell. I guess maybe the family who bought it is called the Radies.
Yeah.
But the amphitheater is kind of shaped like a big shell. And so it just has this incredible vibe to it. It really was. If anybody wants to see some of the video from it, it's on my Facebook, on the Rocoley Facebook. Go check it out, because it was so fucking good. It really was. It felt like I was part of a really special, magical situation. Like, I don't know. I hope they do it in LA, but like, whoever was in Denver and San Diego really got a really special show, because I don't know how else to describe it. It was just fucking great.
Nice. And yeah, by the time this episode comes out, I will have seen Incubus in Indianapolis, and then the day the episode comes out, the mighty Pantera.
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. I'm not one of those that's like, this isn't really Pantera. This is a tribute. Like, I get it. It's a tribute. It's a celebration.
Right.
But I mean, let's just go have fun. Let's go see the fire. Let's go see the lights. Let's like hear those songs again live. Like,
right. You kidding me? I want to see Zach and Charlie playing these songs too. Like, I don't know if this ever happened when you would see Pantera back in the day, but like in New York, somebody would always come out and play with them.
Yeah.
So is it like Al Jurgensen or fucking Scott Ian or somebody would always come out and do like some kind of encore, with them. So it's like, to me, to have like Phil and Rex and then Zach and Charlie, I don't know. I feel like it's just a really cool vibe. Plus, being a Kiss fan, I've always heard, for decades, it's not going to Kiss without Ace and Peter. So, to me, I'm kind of like, all right, like, get in line. I've heard that argument a million times about my favorite band. You're going to do that with Pantera. I'm like, I'm happy to see them play these songs.
Yeah. I mean, it was a treat when you saw like Superjoint play, or whoever, the Illegals play a Pantera track. And then they did a vulgar display of Pantera tribute with opening for Slayer. Yep. And I saw that, and it was still good, but it wasn't great, but it was good. And now I'm like, I want to see the because that was one thing about Pantera too, was it was the lights, it was the fire, it was the logo on fire, it was the whole show. So I mean, like, let's go. I can't.
Yeah, I always loved when Pantera had the drapes in front of the stage.
Yeah,
and they would just have like the laser, the pentagrams and the weed leaves, and then they'd kick into like, was it like
Suicide Note Part 2, because they would play Suicide Note Part 1 with
during the intro thing, and then the whole thing would just drop, and it was just like, man, it was like I always said, it looked like somebody threw a grenade in the pit, because it was just like bodies just flying every which way, see, and that's kind of what I miss. I want that feeling, when I did the Pantera guitars, the mini guitars, that was the whole vibe. Was when we were seeing these shows back during Far Beyond and Vulgar and all that, man, nobody looked at the other person and was like, did you vote for Walter Mondale? Like nobody cared about who you voted for. Nobody cared about any of it.
I don't think Walter Mondale was on the ballot.
I know, whatever, but it was like, but again, it's like, even if you're whatever, Bush versus Clinton or whatever, like nobody cared. We were all on a Pantera show. That's all that mattered, and whatever bullshit we sort of had on the outside, we didn't have on the inside when we were there watching them. And that was kind of the vibe I wanted to put in those guitars, because I was like, those albums are just so special to each of us in a different way, and it's kind of like, how do we want to remember those records, and for me, it's like, that's how I feel about this thing. It's that celebration of like, remember when the whole thing didn't matter, this drama that we're dealing with in the world didn't fucking matter. We were all here watching these guys do this, and I think that's the vibe I'm going in with, is that feeling,
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I don't even know if I'd be able to sleep the night before, because I think the last time I saw him would have been 2000. I guess the year 2000, maybe it was 2000 with like Morbid Angel, Nothing Face, and Soulfly.
Oh right, Soulfly, yeah.
Like one of those last hurrahs of Pantera, man. And it is kind of sad. I kind of wish I would have known, that was going to be the last time I was going to actually see the real band, I guess.
Right. Because they were done in 01, I think, right?
Yeah, they basically September 11th was kind of a nail in the coffin for them.
Yeah, because that was like them in Japan or something like that, and then that was it.
Yeah, they were set to fly to Ireland to start a tour with Slayer, and obviously 9/11 happens, and they like, all right, well, we'll go home, and then we'll reconvene, and basically never did until now.
Yep. Well, that's a bummer, but
it is a bummer.
I'm looking forward to the show, so I don't care what anybody says.
It's gonna be fun.
Talk your shit. I don't care.
All right, man. Well, let's dive into our interview with Freddy from A Way Out. And I think that will do it here for a new pod here on Knotfest.com.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So check out our interview with A Way Out. And then if you see me in Indianapolis this weekend, come up and say hello. I think I'm going to try to get a little. I posted that I'll be in Indy, and a few people going to the Pantera show kind of want to do a meetup. So we'll meet up by a beer tent somewhere and have a drink together.
There you go.
So just head over to the Joshua Toomey Facebook page, and I will tell you where to meet me. I'll drop a pin. How about that?
There you go.
Well,
sounds
cool.
good to me.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you're back. Glad San Diego Comic-Con was okay for you, and you made it through. I
made it barely, but I made it
to the other side. So for New Pod, I've been Joshua Toomey. That's Ro Coley, and this is our interview with A Way Out.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's welcome Freddy Garza of A Way Out to the New Pod here, Knotfest.com. Freddy, man, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Sure. Man, I have to say, diving into these songs, you definitely, kind of fit the mold of the new pod, the new era, all of these, newer bands kind of coming out with kind of like a classic sound mixed with like a newer energy going on, man. So kind of talk about, maybe how the band got together and maybe some influences on the band.
Yeah, definitely. So we have all kind of known each other for like the span of, 10 plus years. Me and Josh, the vocalist, we used to play together in a band, back around like 2010, 2011. And then our drummer, Rob, played a bunch of shows with him and, the band that he was in. Same thing with our bass player, who's also named Josh. So, we kind of grew up through that local scene and, just remained friends over the years. And, with this new project that we've been working on, we all just like came together collectively and, we're trying to hit it as hard as we can.
Nice. And the video for the song A Way Out, which is nice. I mean, you got the band name, you got the song. First album has to be called A Way Out, so you can have song, band, and album title, man. But just kind of watching the video, obviously high production value, things like that. So, I mean, how is it for you to kind of just sit back and A, do you like doing the process of the video, and then B, kind of the finished product with the little mini intro and everything else going on, man? It's got to be awesome to see that on the big screen.
Yeah, definitely. And like it's very surreal, we were in LA back in January filming everything. We did 3 music videos in a span of 2 days. And we all put in, the hours to make those videos happen, and like to actually see the finished products. Like, they're beyond anything that we could have hoped for. So we're really happy with how these are turning out. It's awesome.
Right. I mean, I saw that, you guys really kind of formed in 2018. I mean, yeah, obviously 2018 to 2020 was, you guys doing what you do. But then how did the pandemic help, like, kind of help you guys out? Did it feel like it pushed you guys back, or like kind of, or did it like kind of really kind of revitalize you guys, almost like, take a step, to be able to take that step back and really look at it from a bird's eye view?
Yeah, honestly, I think it probably was maybe a little of both. Like it was really something different for everybody, during the height of the pandemic, not being able to see people or get together, basically having to learn, how to live in a new world almost. But in a way, I definitely feel like it helped us, kind of take things at a pace where we could really like make sure and analyze, are we happy with what we have, and kind of lay out a plan, like, okay, once we get things going, we can have this ready to go. So I think it really helped us planning wise, as far as, once we were going to be releasing the music, and just kind of, going from there.
Right on.
One thing I noticed about the video too is you're playing at least a Strat version of a Strat.
Yes.
You're not playing like a 8-string super detuned guitar, man. So I mean, like in the landscape of music, it seems like right now, like the more strings the better, and it was almost refreshing to just kind of see a regular guitar.
Thanks, man. I'm kind of the same way. I've never really been big on 7, 8-string guitars. I've always been like 6 strings for me. So the guitar that I'm playing in the video is it's a Squire body with a Fender baritone neck,
right?
For that low tuning.
Okay.
But yeah, I've always been, more geared towards 6 strings. And if I can just have that longer scale to compensate versus adding another string, I mean, I'm a big Fender like Strat fan, so it's a win-win for me.
As we were talking earlier, we were talking about Metallica and things like that, and talking about one of your favorite bands of all time. I mean, growing up, were you, what was your era of Metallica that you kind of came in on?
So when I got into Metallica, I had a friend in middle school who had like this burned CD that was like a mix of Metallica songs.
Nice.
So like the very first song on that CD was Enter Sandman, and then the next song was Fuel.
Okay.
There are songs like One, Wherever I May Roam. So it's kind of a mix of like Black Album and Load era, with some like Kill 'Em All and Injustice for All stuff. So I kind of got introduced to everything all at once. But with Metallica, I really like dived into the Black Album, went backwards, and then worked my way forwards from there.
So when you, I mean, to kind of stick on the Metallica thing, when you heard the Black Album versus when you go backwards and you hear Kill 'Em All, I mean, I kind of come from, and probably Josh does too, from kind of sort of the opposite standpoint, where you kind of went from your Ride the Lightnings into your Master of Puppets, into your Injustice, into your Black Album. Going backwards, how was that kind of transition? Were you like, whoa, too fast, too much? Or were you like, oh, fucking this makes a lot more sense? Or, kind of like that. I was kind of curious about that, going backwards with Metallica in a way.
Yeah. Like thinking back on it now, like, especially like listening to a mix CD, like I could hear the difference in like, obviously these, like listening now, like obviously these songs are from different albums, but listening to like a mix CD like that at the time for me was like, wow, this band is like so diverse. They do so much. It didn't really occur to me like I was listening to Metallica at different points in time.
Gotcha.
So I think when I went backwards, it was just kind of expanding on what like I was already liking. And so it didn't really like like I said, the points in time didn't really register to me like they would now probably.
Right. Just wasn't as apparent. As far as the, obviously the name of the band and the name of the album and the song and everything like that, I mean, that kind of lyrical content was very reminiscent of the old school, what we call new metal, kind of, just the substance, the subject matter rather, does that come from, does it come from kind of more the influences on the music part, or like kind of what are some of the influences just in your own life that have kind of led to the subject matter of the band?
Right. I know musically, it's definitely, past influences that we have. Like we all kind of grew up through the new metal era. So like bands like Slipknot, Korn, Limp Bizkit, they were huge for us, and Linkin Park, of course. They were huge for us through that period. So I think it's really cool that we can, especially nowadays with like the resurgence, if you will, of new metal, it's really awesome to be able to bring in those elements in a modern way. Lyrically, Josh, he really pours his heart and soul into the lyrics. So a lot of the lyrics that you will read, are past experiences, whether they're literal stories that he's telling or just kind of summarizing, things that he feels other people can relate to. But yeah, man, he, like I said, he really pours his heart and souls into the lyrics that he writes.
Nice.
When you see some of the lyrics kind of coming out of them, are you like, dude, do you really want to get this out there? Do you want to let people know this about you, or are you kind of on board with letting him kind of bare his soul like that?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like for as long as I know Josh and the lyrics that he's written, in the past, he's definitely matured in his lyric writing, and he definitely has a poetry, if you will, to writing. Very much like a Jim Morrison, or I know like back then he was really big on Michael Bone, who was, of Woe Is Me and Issues.
Okay.
The way he writes his lyrics, it's almost like a poetry. And I feel like Josh, very much does something in his own way, in that kind of style.
So when you guys are writing music, do you send him riff ideas, play him stuff, and then he pulls out the notebook and says like, all right, this will fit here, this will fit there. I need 8 more bars of that. Are you guys kind of attacking songs that way?
Yeah, we definitely write in our own free times. Especially because me being here in San Antonio, our bass player here is also in San Antonio. Rob is in Las Vegas, and Josh is just recently moving back to Texas, but he's going to be in Brownsville. So we definitely don't have that luxury of coming together to write. So we definitely do write in our own time, kind of show each other, hey, what do you think about this riff that I wrote? What kind of vocals do you hear over it? Or, I send guitar parts to Rob, see what he thinks, drum wise, what could work, what could be different. But yeah, we definitely will send our ideas to each other and see how we feel like we can better them until we're able to come together and really try and make a song out of it.
Are there any, because I know that there was a fair amount of like kind of electronica kind of vibes in there too. What else have you guys been trying to experiment with? Because I mean, it's easy to kind of fall into the new metal trap, if you will, the borders that hold new metal together in a way that sort of prevent people from trying new stuff. What new types of stuff are you trying to introduce into the whole thing?
I feel like we're trying to incorporate also elements of, a little more electronic. Like me personally, I would like to do like more like lo-fi stuff, not specifically lo-fi, but like of those elements. I want to try and, incorporate as many different elements as possible. But as far as, what we're really trying to go for, it really we kind of just write and just go with the feel, without trying to really think of what genre we're trying to write to.
Right.
Just write what feels good to us.
Right on.
So in Reason to Forget, obviously a DJ shows up in the bridge. Is that actual DJ? Is that guitar scratching? Like what's going on there?
I wasn't there for that part in the studio, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. I want to say probably DJ guitar scratching. Sorry, not too sure, but I think it's a really sick part.
Yeah, no, it's crazy that over the years, the new metal term was a bad thing, and then all of a sudden, there's like metalcore bands like with DJs like on certain tracks and stuff, and you're just like, for years, if you popped up with a DJ, you're probably going to get made fun of. And now, like some of the heaviest stuff out there, they'll throw some DJ stuff into it. It's pretty crazy how kind of where we are in the world of music.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you guys toured a whole lot around the country, or not so much?
As a way out, we have not toured yet. We probably won't be looking into doing shows maybe until sometime in 2024. Once we have some more songs out, we are a little more like established, and so we can get ready for actually playing shows. As far as individually or in past projects, I know our bass player Josh was in a band called Relent, and he did some touring, here in the country. Me, Josh, and Rob, here shows here and there throughout the different states, but nothing like major, no like big tourings, just like gone for a few days type of thing.
Right.
And that's kind of like where we've been before in the past, but we definitely want to see where we can go in the future when we do start playing shows.
Are there bands that you feel like it would be not like a dream tour for you guys, because it's always easy to be like, oh, Rage Against the Machine or fucking Korn, but like but like who do you see as more like contemporaries that you could really see yourself on tour with?
That's a good question. I mean, I know like we bands like Catch Your Breath and Of Virtues, some of these newer bands that are up and coming, like From Ashes to New. Bad Omens. Some bands are a little more further along than others, but definitely feel like bands that we can see ourselves like possibly being on tour with, or would hope to be on tour with one day.
Right.
Obviously, being a newer band and releasing like tracks one at a time every few weeks, months, however you're going to do it. I mean, do you like that model, or do you wish you could just release a 12-track album tomorrow and really be able to push it all at once?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially for the fact that we do have, a good amount of songs ready to go. But I feel like in today's day and age, you really got to do things strategically. You got to have like a plan to like market your material. And so as hard as it is, I think I feel like we're trying to go about this the best way that we can in, releasing, song every few weeks, give people something to listen to, and, then drop something new before they fall off, and just kind of keep them hooked, rather than, dropping everything that we have at once.
Do you feel like there's maybe a side of it that maybe, you feel like you're more of a marketing manager than an actual band member? Like, all right, I gotta post on Instagram at 9 a.m. because that's the best time for a post on Instagram, but Facebook is 2:30. So make sure you do, and, like Josh, bass player, Josh Singer, you got to do this, that, and the other thing, and make sure you're up on Twitter, and, this new social media pops up, Threads, you got to do, Are you worried about doing all of that, or do you wish you could just maybe focus more on the music and not have to be, online all day long to push everything?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we would all love to be able to focus solely on the music. But the way things are today, you got to be very much heavily involved in your socials, and we're learning that. We're trying to be on our socials, posting, kind of like you said, exactly that, like figuring out when are the best times to post, what platforms should we be posting on and interacting with. So it's definitely a learning curve for us. And we're trying to, stick with that, so that way we can continue to grow, our fan base,
right.
Keep our listeners. But yeah, we would love to just solely focus on the music. But like I said, with the way things are now, you got to also keep up, your social presence as well.
Right. Do you have a plan for the album? I mean, I know that we have the 2 songs, and you said you have a bunch of songs, but like, do you have an album titled, or, do you kind of have already kind of the layout of kind of how you want to do things, or is everything still very much in that beginning stages of step by step?
Yeah, we're still have things as far as a step-by-step basis, as far as maybe the next 3 songs, but long term, as far as albums go, we haven't really discussed too much about that, or what a game plan with that would be. Really just kind of taking it song by song, and like I said, and that's probably the plan for maybe the next 3 songs. And around that time, we're probably looking at a new year to where we can start discussing possible albums. Are we going to start playing live shows? What's going to happen going forward?
Right.
All right, man. Well, what's the best place for everybody to kind of keep up with A Way Out and follow you and make sure that they keep up with all of the new releases and things like that and TikTok dances and everything else you guys are gonna have to do.
We're on all social platforms at A Way Out Band. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. We have a Twitch. We plan to start things going and being more active on. But really, we try anyone who's messaging us or wanting to know more about us. We're trying to respond, get back to them. But yeah, definitely all platforms. A Way Out Band.
Cool.
Nice. Well, Freddy, man, thanks for taking some time here. New pod, knotfest.com.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, dude.